Hello, welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. It's the end of the week. We're gonna check out some new music. Then, Deftones dropped a new single recently. Figure we should check them out. See what Deftones is doing lately. This is called "My Mind Is a Mountain." Let's dive in, see what's going on. Yeah, dude. Hi-hat. That's 3. So we have the hemiola of the 4-4-4 versus the 3 on the hi-hat. Bass kick jumping in on this polyrhythm too. Cymbals still working on this, creating a nice 6-8 feel against this slower 4-4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice atmosphere off on the back as well. It's interesting how weightless that last section feels against something like this. Now, admittedly, I haven't listened to a lot of Deftones. This sounds like what I expect from them, especially as a single. It reminds me of Diamond Eyes, bringing in some of their heavier, more abrasive elements and pairing it with very beautiful, uplifting segments. It never really gets as gritty or as dirty as they can be, and certainly not as gritty and dirty as they have been in the past. But the other thing I noticed too is that the vocalist's harsh style at the end is different. There's a little bit of grit in those last, like 3 or 4 sentences, but it isn't his fry scream. It was more like a clean with a bit of grit to it. I'm curious if that was something they did just for this track to introduce a bit of intensity in the vocals without pulling in a full-on harsh vocal, a full-on scream, or if the vocalist is just deciding to try out something new. In my limited exposure to Deftones, the vocalist tends to have really aggressive harshes or the sort of low energy cleans like we heard in a majority of this. Just sort of going with the flow, very comfortable range, lots of kind of slurring between notes, not like really sharp articulation. We do get that, but we don't really get the more aggressive side. We get a different style. I appreciate that, but I'm curious as to what the reasoning is. The short track, though, I don't think there's a lot to dive into here. First off, though, it's Deftones. It comes in heavy, abrasive, these down-tuned guitars, really heavy, meaty, massive guitar tones. The bass is working in that. The lower end of the drums, particularly the bass kick, is helping to fill the space out as well. And it's just heavy and aggressive, and I think most important is groovy. They kind of sit in that same area as, and I know the music is totally different, but bear with me for a second. They sit in that same area as Gojira, where they make these heavy, weighty sounds, something that should drag the song down and make you feel like you're being crushed under the weight of these instruments, and then pair it with something groovy and dexterous. It makes you want to move as if that weight isn't pushed down on you at all. I think it's an interesting sound that kind of works in opposition of what it should be. You know, you listen to doom metal and you get these crushing guitar sounds, sometimes even smaller than what bands like Deftones are creating, and yet it feels like the song is just a weight on your shoulder, something that you can't shake off and drags you down with it. Deftones makes sounds larger than that feel lighter despite being heavier and larger. Like I said, it feels like it's working in opposition, but for bands like this, it works really well to create this grooving element that makes you want to move along to these massive sounds. This is contrasted with the chorus, which is very light. We're still dealing with large sounds overall, but we're not looking at the lower pitches anymore. There's a lot of uplift to it. The vocals have moved from something a bit more comfortable into a little bit of a higher range, something that feels brighter, but there's also a harmonic shift too. We have moved away from something a bit neutral to darker and introduced a positivity, a light into the music. And when you pair the pitch increase with this harmonic change, and you're going to create something that feels like being lifted up. And after all of this heavy weight from the verse, it almost feels weightless. And that's something I really love about Deftones. That's not something I think that is particular to this song. I've heard that in a few songs from them, particularly in their newest musical output. But this contrast between groovy weight and what'd you call it? Just like atmospheric weightlessness is, to me, the Deftones formula. And it is on full display in this track. The last part of the equation that interested me is the rhythmic element. This song is in 4/4. Or is it? Is it in 6/8? I honestly don't know. It's probably written in 4/4 with a triplet polyrhythm against it, but it honestly doesn't matter. The cleanest way to write it would probably be 12/8, which would embody both the 4/4 and the 3 and the 6/8 within the same time signature. But for all I know, Deftones doesn't write their music down at all, and it's all just feel and muscle memory and memorization. So, you know, maybe it doesn't matter what it would be written as because it's never been written down. I don't know. Regardless, what we get out of this is a pretty strong 4/4. The beginning of the song kicks that off with 3 beats of really, not really fast, but faster delivered, really aggressive sound, and then a final beat for a bit of a contrast to that. No, that's the opposite, isn't it? 3 slower beats and then a burst of energy. Why can't I remember how the intro goes? It's one of those two. I remember strong contrast and a quick, what was it, like 16th note strumming? It's one or the other. Anyways, that delivers a really solid 4/4. 3 beats and then a beat to wrap it up. 3 beats and then a beat to wrap it up. Bring us back to the beginning of this phrase. Once the verse kicks in proper, though, we have a 3 pulse introduced on the hi-hat, eventually on the bass kick 2. This moves to the ride cymbal in the chorus. There is a constant triplet feel in this song, and it's 3 hits per every 2 beats of the 4. So when we have 1, 2, 3, 4, da 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 da. So you get 3 for every 2. And this 3 against 2 rhythm, as I mentioned earlier in the reaction, is the hemiola. It's one of the few, if maybe only, polyrhythmic devices with a name for it. I've never heard of any other. I probably should go look that up. It's the only one I know. 3 against 2. This is prevalent throughout the entire song and gives it a lot of its groove. It gives it a lot of its momentum. If it was just 4/4, especially in the verse, I don't think it would have as much groove. I think it would feel weighty. I think it would feel like it presses you down. But because there is this dexterous other rhythm going on, it helps present the groove, the syncopation that helps push the song forward, that gives it its momentum, that makes it groovy, that makes you want to headbang to it or move your body or dance or mosh or whatever you're going to do. It's the key factor, the X factor to the song that makes it more interesting than it would be otherwise. I don't think I've ever picked up on polyrhythm in other Deftones tracks. It makes me want to go back to stuff that I have heard, like Diamond Eyes, and see if the polyrhythm is present there too. Because I just attributed this entire song's momentum to it, but I can't remember any other song from them that has it. And I would say that heavy, groovy weight is something that's a cornerstone to their at least modern writing style. I don't have a lot of experience with their older stuff, except for that one track you all showed me. Was it Hexagrams? And that was just chaos. So I don't think that was groovy at all. I'd be interested to check that out again, though. Maybe I should do that on my own time. Y'all introduced that to me very early in my exposure to more extreme musics. I wonder if it would make more sense to me today. Anyways, that about breaks this song down. It is less than 3 minutes long. There really is just a verse and a chorus, and then the intro that gets used as a bridge later on. As a sort of little bit of diversity before heading back into the final chorus there. So not a lot to dive into. Let's check out some lyrics. All right. There is an element of negativity, mental and emotional negativity in this track. We see it right from the very first line. The cold escapes, my heart is drenched. This is very cool. I'm not sure about the cold escapes. It doesn't quite... It delivers a very specific feeling of the cold not wanting to be here anymore. They're not leaving, they're escaping. As if they're still supposed to be here, but have left anyways. But the idea of something that was cold, maybe even frozen, leaving something drenched. So the heart was frozen, that is now melted. The ice around the heart is melted and the heart is drenched. I love this imagery right here about warming something that was frozen, particularly an emotive side of yourself. It says, fate comes pouring down. Negative space in cycles been caught in our radar. We've been waiting here patiently, locked in this state, clocking our time. I like this. We already have the idea of being frozen, right? So we have this idea of waiting here patiently, being locked in this state. If you're frozen, you're not moving, you're not changing, you're not doing anything. You're frozen in space, in time. But here it seems that it was intentional. It says we patiently waited here, locked in this state. So whatever's been going on with this person emotionally, they haven't done any change, any evolution, any betterment of themselves. They've just been here. Going with the water and ice theme, verse 2 starts off, the storm remains and my heart is entrenched. Why do we bathe in this psyche? It says we display it in our patience, locked in this stage, plotting our time. So waiting for something to happen. The world moves around you, it evolves, it changes, it grows, and you have become stagnant in this place. waiting for something to happen. But when it does, you're going to be left behind. Verse 3 says, "We sail to the storm that implodes. Explore your fate. Now we sail, starting now." Sticking with the water theme still, we're talking about sailing, which to me immediately thinks of boats. We have the storm that implodes. It blows up from the inside out. It is destroyed from within. If the storm is depression or sorrow, which rain typically embodies more negative emotions, sadness of sorts, also in the sense of sailing a ship, a storm is very destructive to that. It can throw you off course. So we have destroyed the storm from within, and now we can set sail and explore our fate starting now. Verse 4 takes a couple of lines from parts of this track and creates a new stanza out of it. It says, "Negative space in cycles, destroying our mental, remains in our consciousness constant." Basically saying that if you allow yourself to sit in these cycles of negativity, it will rot you out. It will destroy every part of you. You need to move on past that. Don't allow yourself to sit and wait for something to happen while everything around you moves on. Be your own light, destroy your own sorrows, and set forth on your life today. That's what I get out of this. It's interesting because it still captures a bit of a darkness that I think Deftones has, in my, again, limited experience to their lyrics, primarily focuses on negativity, but it takes a more positive turn on that. And this isn't the first time we have seen that, but I think it's the first time that it's been as apparent as it is. This is definitely a positive song. And that's not something I can always say that Deftones has leaned on. So I think it's pretty cool that they're going in this direction. Maybe they have been going in this direction for a while, but that's just not my image of them, particularly from the lyrical side of things, again, with the limited amount of exposure that I have to their music. I'm a huge supporter of this. I love positive messages in music, and it's nice to see Deftones bringing that with their signature sound in tow. They didn't have to change anything about their music for this to work. And honestly, they didn't really have to change too much about their lyrical elements either. A lot of the phrasings and vocabulary and language used here feel very Deftones. It really isn't until the end of the song that any sort of positivity peeks through. Also, this song is 4 verses, so lyrically it's linear, but musically it does work within those cycles that I explained earlier. All right, that's going to wrap this one up then. These are my thoughts on Deftones. My Mind is a Mountain. What did you think of this track? Did anything stand out to you? Did you enjoy it? Is there anything you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on if I misspoke on anything? Please add that and any other thoughts or ideas or perspectives you have on this track. Put that stuff down in the comments section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find ways to contact me, listen to my music, select songs that'll show up on the channel in the future, email me, all sorts of stuff. Go ahead and check that out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all 3 of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.